trouble too. He's gonna melt. Amazon looking for even more damage. This is gonna be the 3v5. Syndicate gets annihilated. Amazon looking for the last one. That's Wario's Warriors showing up huge.
As far as guests are concerned, I would probably rate you as one of the higher higher value guests. I don't think I've ever actually worked. Yeah, please. I don't think I've worked with anybody who has been affiliated with Riot in the way that you are. And I mean, I don't think I've worked with any. I worked with Five Fire the other, like in another cast. Are you familiar with him at all?
Yeah. He plays in. He went from amateur and academy and stuff like that. Plays in like tier 2 league. Yes,
he is a phenomenal player, and I had him on. But as far as like other personalities, I mean, you're the cream of the crop. But you're the cream of the crop in an interesting space. A lot of these I had. Obviously, a lot of players. I had content creators, solo queue gods. But I've never actually worked with somebody who is in this sector. I want to take you back from the beginning here. 5 years ago. Yes. And trust me, this segues into something beautiful. So
okay, I'm ready.
So on Reddit, your first ever post. You know what you posted the first time you ever showed up on Reddit? You know what you were talking about?
It was probably on the main league sub or just on Reddit period.
No, well, it was your first ever post. I assume it was League of Legends happened to be your first ever post. If my research is correct.
So I know that because I used to cast with a Reddit community league. So I'm trying to remember if my first post would have been something about that league or if it was my Skarner post that got 2 upvotes when he got first remade into a juggernaut.
So you're close. It is about League. But I mean, if you know about what I do a ton of coaching. I pretty much eat, sleep, and breathe a lot of solo queue coaching. I found this very interesting that your first ever post went something like this. You were talking to some guy. The post was titled, "How are you meant to climb out of silver?" And you responded and you said, "I could tell by the way this is worded, you are currently frustrated in solo queue. Solo queue pisses everyone off eventually. From what you're saying though, the biggest thing that would help you is to ignore everything about that game that isn't your own play. It's really hard to do sometimes, and people can behave in really shitty ways." And basically the long story short here is one of the first things that you ever posted about was about helping someone try to get over the struggle bus of solo queue, which I thought was...
remember that now.
Yeah.
I remember that now. I think it was just a random post that I found at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Some guy being like, "I'm hard stuck in silver 2. How in the hell do I climb?" And you could, like, the way that the post was worded, you could tell that the guy, like, he's rage posting this at 2 o'clock in the morning because he just lost 4 games in a row. He's like, "How the hell do I climb out of this?" It's like, don't worry, bro. I've been there. I've done that. All right. I've been in the trench. I got you.
It's so interesting that, for those 5 years ago, and it's funny because that when I first saw you, it was casting in houses. And obviously this is my channel, my podcast, my whatever. So I only really reach out to people that I personally, follow or pay attention to. Makes sense. You talk about in the trenches. You really were. I mean, you did not just like spawn into League. A lot of content creators, I talk to a lot of people. There are people that I talk about first to market in these platforms. And I'm very envious of people that are first to market because a lot of first to market streamers, content creators, whatever, they were just a part of League from the beginning. They streamed it. They were all right at it or they were entertaining at the right time. And they're in that space now. But no. That is not how that went down. You actually started casting in houses. And then you just, I don't know, it felt like I went to bed one day and you were part of the team.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking. I'm not going to lie. So I had never commentated a single game of League of Legends or anything, quite honestly, before 2015. 2015 was when I started. And at the end of 2018, I did the world final for the biggest game in the world. So we went from literal 0 to absolute maximum 3 years.
That is so insane.
Yeah, I still can't believe it sometimes. Honestly, the journey has just been incredible because I started off like I was never someone who was like, I watched LCS and I watched pro play and all this stuff for so long, but I was never plugged into the actual scene as one of the characters, as one of the players, right? Like I was never someone who knew these guys personally. I was never someone who had the connections to orgs or players or coaches or anything, right? The closest thing I had to that when I first started, I had one challenger guy on my friends list. And that challenger guy is who I would spectate in my first cast. I would commentate his solo queue games for myself. I did that for a month before I let anybody else ever hear one of my casts. I would spectate that guy's solo queue games, cast them, record them, and listen to it back.
Wow.
That was the first month of my casting, is spectating that guy.
Who was it? You can't leave this dude hanging. Who was it?
It was my buddy. His name, I don't even know what the hell his name changed to these days. His name back then was Naz. And he was like a challenger 80 carry player. And so I would just spectate Naz's games and just be like, okay, let's see what you got.
And so you basically, that's kind of a funny, that's a funny parallel. Because when I started streaming, before I even made a video, I wasn't even going to be seen making a piece of content until I was Diamond. I kind of find that funny that there's that mirror there where you were just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to put myself out there until when people hear me cast, like, it's going to be squared away, right?
Yes, you got to make sure that you're presenting a good product. You can't just go out there and be like, somebody's going to listen to this and feel like they're being bored to sleep in their science lecture in 8th grade or something like that. No, you got to make sure that you're bringing the real deal to the table. You got to make sure you're not just another one of those random voices, some guy that says, oh, I could totally be a caster, and then you suck, right? You want to make sure that you're coming out of the gate swinging.
Is that what you did? Yeah, go ahead.
That's what it was all about. Like I say, I casted those games. You know, now that I think about it, it wasn't Naz, because Naz was one of the guys that I met through the amateur thing that I'm doing. I'm trying to remember now, who was that first challenger guy? I'll remember this some way randomly through the interview. I'm just gonna yell out a name, and you're gonna know, hey, that was the fucking challenger guy. Because Naz was one of the challenger guys that I knew from the amateur org that I casted. Because when I first started off, the very first thing I ever casted, like for an audience that wasn't just myself, I went on. This was back in the day when League forums still existed, before those got nuked. And I went on the League forums and I opened up like 4 of the different categories, anything that I thought an amateur tournament might be in. It was like, I opened up esports, I opened looking for group, I opened recruiting, general everything. And I found a tournament on the forums that was being hosted by these guys that had no idea what the hell they were doing, because their tournament started in 20 minutes and they forgot that they needed a caster. And I was like, I had no standards. I had never done this in front of an audience before. This was an opportunity, man. This was an oasis in the desert. Here we go. Sign me up. And I casted that stupid tournament all afternoon for 8 viewers, 5 of which were the guys hosting it. And that was the first thing I ever casted. Just like the lowest of the low. No one's actually watching this unless they're playing in it. Just no name tournament. That was the first thing I ever did. And that's the number one thing I tell people getting into casting. You don't get to start off just saying, hey, I can talk and I have a microphone. Throw me an academy or something. Like, no, you have to do just random nothing that nobody's ever heard of. And that's part of the grind.
Yeah, that is pretty. That's crazy. I didn't know. I didn't know it was that quick. I mean, I knew it was quick because I obviously, like I said, I followed you for a while, and I monitored. Obviously, if you're in the league space, you monitor Reddit, even if you hate it.
It's
you
part
have
of
to
the game,
monitor
right?
it. Yeah, you have to.
Part of the game.
And so I was monitoring, and I was like, man, this guy, because I saw your highlights from it was like an in-house cast that you did, and I was like, man, this, yeah. I was like, man, this guy is pretty talented at this. And then I remember thinking in the back of my head, I was like, man, you know, Riot needs to pick up somebody like this. And it was like, did you just send out a resume? Like, how did that happen?
So the way that it works, so I'll have you know, I actually, back in the winter of 2015, like, because I said summer of 2015 was when I very first ever started casting. I applied to an open play-by-play caster position in Europe. I never got an answer back.
Okay.
I never even got a no. I got a nothing, bro. I got thrown in the bucket.
Okay.
And then, so I was like, okay, obviously not good enough yet. I just started this past summer. That's expected. Keep grinding. And so the thing that got Riot's attention from me was House Party, the league that I casted with, the amateur Reddit league. They ran a thing similar to LCS and like Challenger Series back in the day, where they would have like three to 4 month splits per year. and teams could sign up, and they had one that was mostly like all diamond teams with a couple of masters players, and their lower league was kind of just like a gold and platinum league for people who weren't quite at that level but still wanted to play in a more organized environment than solo queue, right? So I casted for these guys every week, and I remember it was the beginning of the year, we were starting up a new league. It was around just that January New Year's point, a new league, a new year, everything's kicking off, and there's this team in the major league of House Party called Syndicate. And
I think
like
I remember
said,
this.
Yeah, most teams in this league usually are low diamond players. Each team will probably have like one diamond 2 or diamond 1 guy, and that's kind of the level of competition you're looking at. Syndicate was challenger, master, diamond 1.
Okay.
Like, they were stacked compared to everybody else. They destroyed everyone, and it wasn't close. And so they get to the opening tournament for seeding for things, and they're up against this ragtag squad of just 5 dudes who are buddies who named themselves Wario's Warriors. Wario's Warriors was like 2 platinum 2 guys, a platinum 1 guy, and 2 diamond 5 guys. Like, very much not at the same level as Syndicate is, right? And so Wario's Warriors loses 2 of their guys, Syndicate's 5-man at Baron, and 3v5, Wario's Warriors aces them and ends up winning that game. That goes on to be the only single game that Syndicate loses that entire season.
Crazy.
That's the only game. And my Baron call of that, I went crazy as they like get this 3v5 at the Baron.
I remember this. Yes,
It's called CaptainFlowers Goes Berserk, like total turnaround at Baron is the YouTube title. And the final call, Syndicate gets annihilated. That's the phrase that everybody remembers from it. And that game was played in like January of 2016. And come around like March or April, the guy who was the head of the House Party League, he sent me a DM. He was like, hey man, wanted to make sure it was cool with you before I posted it. I want to post this clip of you casting the Baron fight on the main league subreddit, because since this was now 3 or 4 months later, it was about time for our next split to start. So he wanted to do it as a promo thing on the main league subreddit to be like, hey, here's the cool kind of like esports feel that our league has to try to recruit more players, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, sure, dude, it's going to get 20 upvotes and it's going to die overnight, but go ahead. I don't care. And I fell asleep and I woke up the next morning. It was number 2 on the League of Legends subreddit, and it got 250,000 views overnight.
Yep.
And I was like, holy shit. It didn't just die in new with 20 upvotes. And it was incredible to me because the craziest thing is the fact that I then went to check my email, which was only a few months old itself because I had to make an email account for my casting stuff if I wanted to be taken seriously, right?
Yeah.
And in that email is a message from the lead producer of the LCS that says, hey man, really like what I just saw on Reddit. Let's have a talk. I could not believe it. I remember just pushing my chair away from my desk saying, no fucking way for like 2 minutes straight. Just like a broken record. I could not believe it. Wow. And then that started what became a 9-month interview process, at the end of which I got hired for the LCS.
Well, that sounds like Riot. I interviewed there years ago. Fun fact.
It was a long process, man.
Yeah, they do some rigorous interviewing. It's always, for me, it's kind of funny because when I interviewed there, I interviewed years ago, and it was actually my stream was at a pretty like dry spell when I went to interview there, and I didn't get the job, and I was super down. And then after the coaching, like I started doing the coaching, and my coaching took off, and then after the fact, I was like, you know what? Probably for the best. But I still remember going out there, getting flown out there, and just they did a thing. I mean, a 9-month interview process. I don't even know how that even would go. But for me, they just had me there all day. That was what my process was. It was like they flew you out, and then you just talk to people in different teams throughout the entire day.
That was the end of mine. Like I had, once I got to the very end, so I already had to do like 15 different Skype interviews, including practice casts with Kobe and Jat beforehand. And then once I got through all of that, I was greenlit to be flown out and do an interview gauntlet, like 7 or 8 interviews back to back in person out in California. That was they told me that was the last one. That actually wasn't the last one, because then after that, I had another Skype interview with the head of esports. But then after that was the one where I actually got in. And I understand them having all these interviews because, you know, you're one of the faces of the English speaking League of Legends broadcast professionally. Like they got to make sure that they're getting the right guy for sure. But it was a process, man. That was an arduous journey.
Yeah, I never even viewed it that way, but that totally makes sense. Like if you are going to be like you're the thing that people look at when they think competitive LoL, right? They're like, this is the guy. Yeah, I've never even. So that actually lines up. Yeah. That lines up. That's wild. So, I mean, obviously the trajectory was super smooth for you. It's not smooth for everybody. You had a smooth trajectory, but it does make me very curious. Was it just like, was this a passion of yours? I mean, obviously you said you hadn't casted anything before, but like, what, I mean, how do you get to, I'm going to play League, JK, I'm just going to cast all of a sudden. Like it seems very bizarre, right? Like what was the...
It's strange. So I had always been like, I was a hardcore League of Legends, like no-lifer for years, right? Like League of Legends from like preseason 1. So I actually started literally as soon as the game got out of beta and I was able to access it in 2009, I was playing League of Legends. Like I came from playing original Dota All-Stars on Warcraft 3, played a ton of Warcraft 3, got into Dota. One of my buddies that I played Dota with was like, hey, do you want to play Dota, but it's not a Warcraft 3 mod and it's actually a game? I was like, hell yeah, let's do that. And I got into League and we started playing and the rest is history. Like I was a grind lord at League of Legends. I was playing 8 hours of League of Legends a day. Like I would look at my college class schedule and I'd be like, oh, it's just a lecture today. I'm pretty sure I've heard of this stuff before. Skip it, play League. Like I was hardcore into League of Legends, but of course I was never good enough to be a pro player. Like I was never challenger or anything like that. I was like a diamond level player, but back when I first started, I was literally bronze season 1. I still have the bronze season 1 trophy. But I wasn't one of these people who was naturally blessed with great ability to play the game, but I loved the game, man. And so I graduated college. I graduated with majors in like pre-law and political science. I was thinking about going to law school, but I hate academics so much. Like I'm good at it, but it drains the soul out of me. Sure. And so I couldn't put myself through more school. I was like, this is going to do serious damage to my mental and everything else. I can't do more school right now. So I went back home where my dad owns a landscaping company, and I just worked for him while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And as I was no idea what I was going to be doing, just kind of shoveling dirt, having a good time, my dad and my friends both kept telling me, they were like, okay, well, you know, you really love the gaming thing. You really love this kind of stuff. You got to try to get into that space somehow. And I was like, well, I'm not good enough to actually be a professional gamer. And even if I was, I play a Scorpion that everybody else thinks is trash, and all you'd have to do is ban it, and I can't be viable. So I don't know what in the world you want me to do here. And they're like, well, what about the casting thing? What about these commentators? Like, because I always loved being an entertainer. I always loved being a presenter. Like that's just always been something that I enjoyed doing. And so when they first recommended me to give this a shot, I was like, you guys are being ridiculous. There's no fucking way. I was like, I've never done this before. I have no experience with this. I'll get laughed off the stage. Which, of course, that attitude is what made me do what I told you about with spending the first month just casting to myself, watching the VODs back, being like, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's good, and refining it. And then I just got to the point where I felt good about it. And then, like I said, I did that first cast for the tournament that had 8 viewers. And hey, all 8 of those viewers were like, hell yeah, man, this guy's pretty good.
This guy's
so I was like,
getting it.
That's 8 out of 8. I'll take an 8 out of 8. Hell yeah, sign me up. Let's do some more. And then that's how I found House Party from there. And then I was like, holy shit, brother, we got 71 viewers per weekend. That's so much more than 8. I was losing my mind, man. I had 70 people per weekend. And that's what I did. I grinded House Party. So I found House Party in August of 2015. And then, like I say, it was around like March or early April of 2016 when that Reddit post got traction. That's when Riot first got a hold of me. And then after I got on Riot's radar, I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh shit. I was like, I have to do bigger and better stuff now. I can't just be like, oh, hey, you guys noticed me. Cool, whatever. So that's when I started bootlegging. I took anything that didn't have a professional English cast already, and I just ripped the feed, muted the audio, and cast it over it myself. I figured I had about $200 to my name, so if somebody tried to sue me, what are they going to get? You gonna get $200? Sure, here you go, whatever. Like, it's literally not worth the problem. So I just started bootlegging, hoping that nobody was gonna have a problem with it. And it worked. I did English casts of the Demacia Cup. I did English casts of the Open qualifiers for Challenger Series for both North America and Europe. Shout outs to Fnatic, who hooked me up with the feed for all the games that their amateur team was playing. Hell yeah, thanks Fnatic. And I did casts of pros playing solo queue in other regions as prep for Worlds. Pretty much if I thought people would watch it and there was no English cast of it, I casted it.
That is crazy.
Didn't matter. I just started doing it. Nobody else was doing this at the time. There was no coverage for these things.
Yeah.
I just was like, let's do it. There's nothing out there that exists to cast. So I'm just going to gank this stuff and hope nobody yells at me. And that was my plan. And it worked.
Well, yeah, it had to have worked. I mean, and now here you are. So I feel like people that are listening are going to have that moment where they're like, okay, so you basically, you get into the space, you kind of get your way right away, and then you wind up casting Worlds, right? And a part of me, and I just want to, and I'm not trying to insult any other casters when I ask this question. That's not my aim. What I'm curious though is like, what do you think that casters were missing up until that point? Right? Like what were you bringing that was so like, if you could self-analyze, like what about you in particular?
I think there's a couple of different things that I bring to the table that set me apart for viewers and for audiences and things like that. The first of which is just, I know that I'm very mechanically good as a caster. Like one thing that people always spam, like the rap god comments, right?
Sure.
I am very mechanically proficient at casting team fights. Like I can speak very quickly. I can observe everything that's happening. And like, especially League of Legends casting, it's gone more and more towards that style of like faster paced stuff. Literally, you can go back, I mean, compare what a cast sounds like in season 1 versus what a cast sounds like now. You're going to see a lot more of the rapid pace commentary to keep up with everything that's happening. And I'm not going to delve into whether or not that or the more narrative style, slower stuff is better. Most of the time that comes down to personal preference of the viewer anyway. But the style itself has evolved in this way. And I think I was one of the people who was there, like really making sure that I was going big on that and sort of lending towards that being more of the trend in how things are casted these days. The other thing is I am unashamedly myself. I don't try to make myself be a, the best personality I can be for the show. I just try to be me as much as I can, right? I lean into the fact that I'm a Skarner one trick. I'm proud of that shit. Some people out there in League of Legends would be like, "Oh, dude, you don't want to be a one trick. You got to come off as like a smart analyst and blah blah." I'm not an analyst. I never claimed to be. I'm a Skarner one trick. I was the best Skarner in North America, damn it. But you'd put me on Lee Sin and I would be like gold 1. All right, I know what I was. And I'm proud of that. And I like to play into what I am and what I feel my strengths are. I like to lean into personality stuff. I like to be more entertaining. I like to just make everything fun. I like to bring custom words and phrases to things. I like to be unique in the way that I present stuff. And just, I feel like leaning into yourself more is one of the most powerful things that you can do, especially coming into this scene. And it goes back to what you were talking about at the beginning, right? Because you said, I'm not one of the ones that was first to market. And no, I was not, man. That was the most intimidating thing for me, is coming into this thing where the guys that you're casting with, Freak and Kobe and Riv, all these dudes have been there since season 1. Since I was watching this in college and just loving this game and playing this for 8 hours a day, these are the guys that I watched. And now I'm being held to the same level and standard that they are.
So did they, when you made that jump, and you basically turn the corner and it's like, well, now I'm at Riot, right? Like you come in, you have like your first day at the office. So I know with Riot, like they are obviously with the interview process that we talked about. I mean, they're very good at what they do over there in terms of attention to detail and basically holding each other accountable. Was it jarring at all being over there? Like,
I mean, I moved across the country with 3 suitcases and that's it, right? Like I had never, I had always worked for my like dad's landscaping company. I had never really been like far from home like that. So the whole process in general, of course, was going to be a bit of a shock to me. But one thing that I was happy to learn, because, you know, when you first started a thing like that, especially in the entertainment industry coming from Cornfield Land, Ohio, is you wonder, you're like, are the people that you've quote unquote known on screen for all these years really the people that you think they are, or is everybody going to be a bunch of Hollywood divas? And I'm very happy that everybody was super cool when I met them in real life and got to show up and talk to everybody face to face. Everybody was very welcoming. Everybody was very supportive when it first started off. So I'll just go ahead and let my stupidity shine here. Like I say, I'm me. I ain't ashamed of it. I had no idea anything about credit cards, credit scores, any of that bullshit. I had never had a credit card by the time I moved out to LA. So I had literally non-existent credit score. I could not get an apartment at the beginning. I couldn't get one because it's LA is so packed. There's so much competition and everything. And I remember I knew Azael for a week, and Azael let me crash in his living room. Because
hold on a second. Are you good? Is Mike good? Did you cut out for a second? That was kind of weird.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did it cut out? I might have hit the cord. I'm sorry about that.
No. You said you're good. You were talking about credit scores, then you cut out, and then you came back on. You were saying how you never you had to get a room. I assume is what you were saying.
Yeah. So the credit score thing was all messed up, and I was trying to figure out where I was going to stay. And Azael, after knowing me for a week, literally let me crash in his living room on the couch. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that genuine kindness to a dude that he had only known for a week. Azael's just one of the best people I've ever met. And everybody else had that same kind of kindness. Always asked me, just being like, hey man, if there's anything that you don't, if there's anything that you got questions about or don't really understand, hit me up. We'll talk about it. Everybody was super welcoming. Everybody was super cool. And then, man, I remember my first day actually casting big time, LCS, League of Legends. I was on, because it was back when we had 2 streams because it was best of 3s in LCS. And so I was on the B stream. Obviously, you're not gonna get TSM versus Cloud9 on your first day. That's not how shit works.
Yeah.
And I made sure I got to the stage 20 minutes early because I was like, oh shit, what if I get lost? What if I don't know the studio? I gotta be there on time. I got to the stage 20 minutes early. I was there. I was ready. It was me and Kobe. We were casting, I believe, FlyQuest versus CLG. We're ready. And then when I'm supposed to start talking and welcome everybody, I didn't have my headset flipped. The microphone was flipped up. It wasn't by my mouth because I was used to using this standing mic at my desk, streaming from home. I was used to using the headset. And so literally you can go back and it's in highlight reels and stuff. It's literally just a thing of me going like, oh shit, and having to correct my microphone.
Jeez.
Because it wasn't even next to my mouth on my first cast.
That's nuts. And so this would be, but obviously these guys, like you said, that you were working with, they would have expected some jitters on the first go around, right?
Of course.
How could you not? How could you not just being kind of thrust into the space and be like, all right, go cast.
Yeah, it's a wild adaptation. It's so crazy to go from, especially because and there's more of a pipeline these days with more academy stuff being tied into amateur and having these tier 2 and tier 3 events being sewn together, and there being more Discord and Reddit leagues. But back in that day, there was nothing, right? It was either you're casting the LCS or who are you? There wasn't really a tier below that, because even back then with Challenger and stuff like that, you had freaking Zyrene doing the Challenger games sometimes. And, they're the same guys doing the LCS. So pretty much if you were watching a big League of Legends broadcast, you were either watching the LCS crew or you weren't watching anything.
I see.
Other regions notwithstanding, of course. If you're watching North American League of Legends, there's just LCS and Challenger and that's it. So to go from casting this Reddit league that has 70 viewers per week to hundreds of thousands of viewers was wild to me.
That
Absolutely
is nuts.
Wild.
Well, and then I guess, what was it, last year, after your cast, you got an award, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I won the esports award for play-by-play commentator of the year, and that's not just for League of Legends; it's across all games. I got to make sure I flex that.
Was that a vote thing? Who voted?
So the vote is partially fans, but also there is an internal board of people across all esports, like CSGO, Rainbow Six, League of Legends, Dota, everything, that also vote. So it's industry professionals and fans put together.
Well, that's awesome, man. And Jesus, that's well deserved. That's crazy.
Yeah, thank you.
Just 5 years, dude. 5 years from that Reddit post of you telling some
post.
telling some kid. Yeah. Dude, you lived it though, and it's kind of funny. And the reason I said this is going to come back full circle is I wanted to have a discussion about this because you lived it. You were saying, you know, hey, I played the hell out of League, and you recognize like, well, I'm not going to be, you know, I'm not going to be like a pro player. You know, I'm gonna aim to do something like this, and then you transition into casting. The reason I said it would go full circle is because I've had a lot of thoughts recently about League and about solo queue. And obviously my aim with coaching is to make it so that people experience that frustration as little as possible. I mean, I think it's inevitable that you are going to experience frustration in a game like League. So how can we minimize it? But for you, you didn't minimize it. You removed it. And you said before, before we went on, I was talking on I believe Twitter about this, and you were saying how it's like, man, I don't really play anymore, you know? Which it isn't like I'm flaming you or anything like that. To me, I just find it interesting that you love the game so much, but you hardline transitioned. Like you were just like, you know what? I'm a caster now. I don't mess with this. I'm not gonna sit here and torture myself in this game. I've got some casting stuff to do. So do you ever think to yourself, it's like, from where you sit now, do you look at a game like solo queue and people kind of like tormenting themselves in this game? And does a part of you think to yourself like, this is a little unhealthy competition?
So I think for a lot of people, it's healthy, but for a lot of people, it's unhealthy. The reason that I stopped playing solo queue is kind of a double, because I still play a lot of normals with my friends, like just clowning around, having a good time. But the reason I stopped actually competitively grinding solo queue was a couple of different things. The first of which is ever since back when I was a little baby Skarner grinding in bronze back in season 2, I was like, okay, I want to hit like that top level. I knew that I couldn't get challenger, but I wanted to get what was right below it. And of course, you know, back in season 1 there was only platinum, and then in season 2 there's diamond. And so diamond 1 was always like my goal. Diamond 1 was the level below challenger, and it's like, yo, if you get diamond 1, you are legit. And
I remember
obviously,
those days.
You know, with the addition of more stuff between Diamond 1 and Challenger, with the addition of Masters, with the addition of Grandmasters, the feel of Diamond 1 itself has been lessened. But to me, that was still always my goal. And in season 6, I specifically remember once I got Riot's attention, I was like, okay, I have to be the single best caster candidate they ever had, to the point where if they turn me away, everyone just goes, bro, what the hell? So I was like, it's time to grind. And that's literally what I grinded. Me and one of my buddies that I knew through House Party. Yeah. He was the only person that I trusted to duo queue with, because he was the only person that also actually gave a fuck. Like he was very super hard into grinding. He was like, okay, if we fuck this up, we're doing a VOD review of it. Like he was very try hard, and I was also very try hard. So we got along well. And me and him duoed, and he was at the time, he was not like a Masters or Challenger player or anything like that. Me and him were both Diamond 5 players. And we duoed with a 77% win rate to Diamond 1. Like, we played Skarner and Azir every fucking game. And we duoed to Diamond 1. And I was like...
you were just grinding.
Yeah, we were just grind lords, dude. The House Party community was split in two on which one of us was secretly a booster boosting the other one. And I was like, neither one of us are boosters. You guys just all suck. You just need to get better and climb. And I still remember that season 6 climb, me and him just playing solo queue every day, grinding to get up to Diamond 1. And it was great. I loved it. Like that was also, once I hit that, I was like, I got my goal. When I was on the interviews with people at Riot, and they asked me, so how long have you been playing the game? And you tell them, oh yeah, back since season 1. And they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, what's your favorite champions? Do you play ranked? What rank are you? I was like, oh yeah, Skarner's my favorite champion. I'm the highest ranked Skarner in North America. I'm Diamond 175 LP. Being able to say that and have that casual flex, that was badass. I still remember feeling so cool when I got to say that, man. That was... Yeah,
at the time, I'm kind of split on like how valuable high elo is nowadays, because like a part of me is like, I have my opinions on it, but I do remember, and I always talk about this in content, where it's like, man, League's rank system is one of the most like high value systems. It's obviously as valuable, if not more valuable, than money to people in many a way, you know? Yeah,
people base their entire everything off like their league rank, right?
Yeah.
People are seriously invested in it. And that's one of the reasons why I had to step away from it too is, so first off, like I said, I felt like I hit my goal getting Diamond 1. Like I didn't feel that I would ever be able to hit Challenger or anything like that. And then the other thing was, again, with what I said about being seriously competitive and like only duoing with that one guy because he was also as competitive as I was, man, it got to the point where I could be having a really good day, and then I queue up for solo queue. I lose 3 games in a row, even though I played really well in all of them, and it's literally just bad luck. But that would just ruin my whole day. That would take a good day to a bad day. That would take a good day to a bad day. Is a bad day of solo queue. And once I was able to recognize that, I was like, hey, this isn't good for me. This is not good. I was like, I can still have fun and play the game, like playing normals with my friends, getting to do my crazy Skarner stuff and do Chad builds and go try to 1v9. But I can't keep putting myself through this when it's not healthy for me. And people being able to recognize when they have a dependency on something like that is very important. Because back when, because it made sense for me sort of back when I kind of felt stuck when I was living back in Ohio, when I was trying to do the caster grind, and I didn't know if I was even doing it right back before Riot messaged me from the house party thing. And I was like, am I even making the right steps? Am I making the right choices? Am I heading in the correct direction? Like, League was something that I can invest in to still feel value in myself. To be like, yes, you are the best Skarner. Yes, you're able to climb. Yes, you're good at this, right? I was giving myself that dopamine hit over and over and be like, yes, you're good enough. You're good enough. But then once I got to the point and I made it and I was like, this is not, I was able to look at it objectively. I was like, this is not healthy for me. And so that's the one thing that I would say to people out there that might have that little question at the back of their mind, you know, scratching the inside of their brain, being like, am I too invested in solo queue? Is this unhealthy? Run that test. Does a good day become a bad day if solo queue is bad? If so, solo queue has too much control over how you feel and your life.
Dude, this is awesome. I love this. I love this. I love that you're saying this because it's a weird debate that I've had. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I live pretty well with the coaching and everything. I get coaching clients standard 5 times a day at a pretty high rate, too high for what I do.
Oh yeah, man.
But the thing is I have these debates because when I play this game a lot, like I'm running footage of me playing Nidalee as kind of a background video filler for this talk, and I'm playing Nidalee. I always try to reinvent myself as a coach because one of the last things I want to do is ever be stagnant on one style. You know, I've made Challenger with Tryndamere, I've made Challenger with Twisted Fate, so mid and top, and then I've made high elo with a bunch of champions, and I made diamond with a bunch of champions. So I've basically I've done this grind so many times that you were talking about earlier, but like everything you said is just so wise. It is so wise because it's something that I have to go through with myself, and it's like there's a toughness that I think is required to do it and sustain your life. And
for sure.
Yeah, to hear you verbalize it in such an accurate way is just such a breath of fresh air to me because I talk to my wife, Mary, all the time. It's like, I have to, I have to grind this game. And sometimes I'll get done with a session and we'll be going for a walk and I'll just be pissy, right? Just exactly what you said.
It's a bad day of solo queue, man. It made the day bad.
Yeah, but it's like for me, I can't, I'm not allowed to, and I suppose this is a conundrum for a lot of people. It's like, I don't feel like I would be doing the right thing for my coaching clients if I myself wasn't able to at least understand tempo and pacing of the game and all that stuff. So that's why it brought this to the table for a discussion for me. It was like, do you view it as healthy? Can it ever be healthy? Is battling this out and going through solo queue warfare, the highs and lows, is it ever healthy? Because like I know poker players have to do it. I use poker comparisons a lot on my casts. Is like,
okay,
yeah, because basically my coaching, my value as a coach, is basically a monetary connection, right? For you, you're a caster. What you had to go through to get to where you're at, I mean, you were talking about earlier how you're mechanically proficient at casting, right? And I can only speculate on what that is, but I have some ideas of probably what you've gone through, which one of the things is, I don't know half of these damn spells. I'm looking at Italy right now. I don't know what the hell her heal, what's her E called? I bet. Yes. Fucking yes. I love it. Okay. Let's do this trivia here. All right, I want to see how clean you are at this. So human
we'll
form,
see.
Q.
I might not know all of them. I might not know all of them.
I'm gonna hover them. Q, human form, Q, human form and Q.
Human form of Q, javelin toss.
Okay, W.
Javelin, or wait, it's W is the bushwhack, isn't it?
Oh my God. Okay, E.
I think E is like primal surge or something.
And R.
I don't know R because it's just the transform.
Yeah, it's called
cougar
aspect. It's called aspect of the cougar. But I mean, that was pretty damn. That's see, that's what I mean. I know. Yeah. You had to go through that. Yeah, you had to go through that though. It's like that was part of your. That's your barrier. That's your value, right? In what you do, and like you said, mechanical proficiency and casting for you would be something like, well, you know what all these abilities do. I've been playing this game for 10 friggin' years. I have no idea half of these abilities. You ask me, I'd be like Twisted Fate. I'd be up there casting like he threw a card, and you would. What's it? Pick a card.
Baby.
Let's pick a card for him.
Yeah, pick a card is his W. Wild cards is his Q.
It's wild cards.
E.
Yeah, see, played to Challenger. No fucking idea.
no clue what any of these abilities are.
Yeah, the titling of them? No, man. That's and see, and then the other thing you were talking about for just the rap god thing, right? Was there anything that you did to train for that? Did you ever? Because in high school, I used to sit in the car and just like freestyle.
I mean,
like,
I
turn on the beats.
do like. So I do freestyle stuff just as practice. Like if I'm in the shower, I make up a rap about whatever's around me in the shower, like spider on the wall. That's a classic hit right there. Spider on the wall is great. That shit's going double platinum. I tell you
Grammy.
what. But I've always just been a very creative person. I've always liked trying to entertain people, think about things in different ways. And I never knew vocal warm-ups back when I first started casting. Like I have no actual training in casting or anything like that. So I would just do the fast part of Rap God as my vocal warm-up. That was how I would start off doing that. And so being able to speak quickly, and then like, the first couple of times where I did a team fight and I spoke very quickly and kept up with all the little details, people loved that. And so one of the most important things that you can do as an entertainer is recognize what people really love and give them more of that. And so I was like, okay, people like this, let's keep that going. And it just sort of became one of those things that I'm able to keep up with and do very quickly. And I've had so many front page Reddit League of Legends clips doing that. And it just, people always love it. They love the ability to, like casting has mechanics the same way that playing has mechanics, right?
Sure.
Like some team fights, you only need Skarner mechanics to cast them because it's very basic stuff happening. Other team fights, you better be like a borderline scripting level Riven, hitting everything and animation canceling every single ability to keep up.
Yes, and this is something that, it was really brought to light with what you were talking about earlier. It was the Syndicate game.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that you got super hyped about, and the hype matches the moment. That's the other thing too that we didn't even really discuss about with casting is that there's a time and a place for enthusiasm and energy, right? Like you don't get super hyped about some guy AFK farming top. I mean, I suppose you could, but
no. We're not about that. We're not about that.
But that would be a very interesting presentation if you're like, holy shit, look at this guy last hitting one after another. Like, there's no way that, anybody would keep tuning in. I mean, maybe they would for a little bit, but.
I mean, it would be funny as a joke the first time if you're just like, oh my God, Kobe, look at this. He's walking up to the wave. Boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Every single minion. The man didn't miss one, but here comes the cannon. Now this is worth 93 gold. And if he missed it. If you do that for like one time, that would be entertaining. But if you do that all the time, people would be like, what the hell is this? Right?
But I'm gonna turn this shit off.
And learning when to be hype and learning when to be relaxed, that's part of it, right? That's part of what determines if you're good or not.
Ready, Bang is hiding, he's coming.
Tisha says Bang is hiding, they go in like that, and then boom! Everybody's dead. And the biggest criticism that I got for this was people saying you should have called out Wolf instead of Faker. And here's why I stand by.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah.
Here's why I stand by calling out Faker. Because it is a 10,000 gold game. Anyone who has ever been a long-time League of Legends player has played a game where they are down 10,000 gold, and you get an awesome engage or you hit a big AoE ability, and it doesn't matter because of the state of the game. When Wolf jumped in there and threw everybody up in the air, I wasn't convinced. The reaction that I gave, Faker Shockwave will find them all. When those health bars all instantly chunk 2/3 of the way gone in pure red, that's when it's real to me. This isn't real yet. Now it's fucking real.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, no, I agree.
Now it's real.
The only reason, no, you're right.
And it's also the other thing that people don't think about, like the casting mechanics part of it, is that it all happens so fast. You only have time to hit the biggest thing. And what is the biggest thing? Faker Shockwave, killing 1, maiming 3, and ending that fight before EDG has a chance to turn it around. Yeah,
that's kind of strange that people wanted to hype. I mean, don't get me wrong, the sync on SKT is great in that play altogether. But yeah, I think the big aha moment is exactly what you say there. I mean, just from when I look it back over, I don't see how anybody could. But then again, that's your filtering, right? That's what you were talking about earlier. You got to filter out some of this goofiness.
There's an interview with Wolf where Wolf was like, "I wish the casters would have gave me more credit." And I was like, look, if you guys give me a translator, I will be happy to sit down with Wolf and explain to him my thought process, because I still believe that I'm right, even if Wolf believes that I'm wrong. But the thing is, I understand his point of view. I understand the people that say that they wanted to give more credit to Wolf, because yes, Wolf starting it off was super important. But to me, as I've already said, it wasn't really a comeback play. It happens fast too. Until Shockwave.
It happens fast. From me watching that, like, I could only imagine your position when you're like you said, you're on main stage, you've got to commentate this thing, and it just, I mean, it was like a flick of a switch, and it could be really tough to verbalize it. I mean, I feel like anybody at home watching that is going to look at that and go, dude, that Shockwave hit, holy crap. Right? Like, that's what they're going to think, because the engage is great, and obviously the support does set up a big chunk of that, but like, at the end of the day, the mid's all the investment, right? All that CSing, all that farming, all that dealing with lane state to be able to follow up the engage, I think is what it is. Like you said, I think it just makes it iconic. I don't really see how, but
it made it real to me. And that's one of the things that I always try to do. Like earlier, back at the very start of this, when I was talking about staying true to myself and just being unapologetically me in terms of how I cast and how I look at things, that was my true, honest to God reaction to that play. Is holy shit, man, Faker Shockwave found them all.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to do that. No other team is going to do that. Yeah. And these guys just won a team fight, 5v5, fair and square, from 10,000 gold behind.
Yeah, what a play,
score
by
was 9-0 at that point in the game. That was the first kills they got in that game. Was that.
Yeah, that is such a wild play. Like, just incredible. I mean, dude, I gotta say, just talking to you for the past hour or so, this has been great. Phenomenal little chat today. I would say that your passion, just hearing you talk about just your word choice, I can tell that you've mulled over this, right? Like this is your identity, and you mulled over it, and you're like, no, damn it, that was the right way to frame that. Like, super proud of your cast and super proud of the play. And I just think it's really deserved. And I just want to say before we close that I really do appreciate you doing this. You don't have to do it. You didn't have to do it. And I'm not somebody that's massive in the space. So thanks for giving me a chance on the cast. And honestly, I hope you keep killing it. Like I said, I just think it's completely deserved where you're at. And just keep it up, man.
It's been super fun. This has been an awesome interview. Just kind of being able to sit here and just bullshit back and forth about all sorts, solo queue mentalities and running track and Faker Shockwave. And it's been a good hour, man. It's been fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I gotta get back to the gym and work on my mile time. I gotta bring that down and just keep doing you, man. I mean, it's honestly phenomenal work. And like I said, well deserved.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much. It's been an awesome interview. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, buddy.